You've asked me to speak about dating, marriage, and Shavuot. So, boy meets girl. He says, will you marry me? She said, no. They lived happily ever after. Boy meets girl, says, will you marry me? She said, yes. The end. Now, this is pure humor, no reflection on reality whatsoever, so don't be afraid. We're going to talk about dating and marriage. The obvious connection to Shavuot, you tell me, what's the connection? So there's the chuppah of Har Sinai, the Jewish people. How did we say, yes, we're going to marry you and your Torah? What were the words we used? Naaseh v'nishma. Excellent. 10 points for Gryffindor. Excellent. So comes along the Torah and tells me, Naaseh v'nishma. So Naaseh v'nishma is a very interesting statement. We will do and then we will listen in the sense of understanding. So really, does that sound like we're checking all the details of the contract, or we're jumping in with trust that God, you would do no wrong to us? Which one is it? We're jumping in with trust. So marriage is not a word, it's a sentence. You didn't get that? All right, never mind. As in prison, jail, never mind. Okay, so it's pure humor. Sorry, it's very good that you didn't get that. That's a very good sign. I personally found it very funny. So some of us do relate to it. Okay, so marriage is a very serious commitment. In Lashon HaKodesh, how do you say, I will? When you want to say, I commit, you don't say, I want or I need to. You say, I will. In Lashon HaKodesh is a perfect language. Biblical Hebrew is perfect. There are no mistakes. So how do you say, grammatically, I will? What letter do you add in front of the verb to say, I will? An aleph. Aleph, as you know, always represents Hashem's name. It's the first time aleph appears in the Torah at the beginning of a word is an Elokim. So says the Maharal, you'll find this also, the Vilna Gaon says this on Bava Kama, page 55, that the first time appearance of a letter in the Torah, at the beginning of a word, that word is the meaning of that letter. The first time an aleph appears in the Torah, at the beginning of a word, is an Elokim. So Elokim is the essence of aleph. Elokim means the Ba'al HaKochot Kulam. He is the one power behind all powers. When you and I put an aleph in front of a word, it means I will. Now, there's nothing that you and I can say we will because we're human. I will be on time. Well, that's if the traffic allows. I will lose weight if the chocolate doesn't speak too loud to me. I will be a better husband, father, if this child doesn't press all my buttons. So there are many things we say I will and we commit, but we don't control because there's so many other factors. So how do we have the arrogance almost, ga'ava, to say I will? And the answer is, you're putting aleph in front of the verb. And aleph represents HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So what we're really saying is, I will, with your help, accomplish anything. So Ruth, which is the story we tell on Shavuot, what does she say to Naomi? Where Naomi explains to her, look, I've got nothing to offer you. I'm an embittered mother-in-law at this point, and I've got no more sons, and you're going to come to Eretz Yisrael. You're not part of the Jewish people. You're not going to be fully integrated and accepted. What is Ruth's famous answer? I will go where you go. How does she say that in Hebrew? Elech. She puts the aleph in front of the word lech. I will go. What does that mean? I want to lose weight. I need to lose weight. I will lose weight. I want to be a better husband. I want to be a more loving father, mother, more giving spouse, or I will. There's a big difference. Is it just semantics? Just words? I want to be, I need to be, or I will. I will says, no matter how many times this relationship doesn't work out, I will keep trying. No No matter how many times I make a mistake, I will start again. So the clear connection between Shavuot and marriage is that this is a serious commitment. No one gets married expecting, Has v'shalom, to end up in divorce. And I will says, I accept that from the moment I'm under the chuppah and the ring goes on my finger, I will commit that this is my beshet, this is the zivug, this is the one that was originally intended for me 40 days before I was born, before I was conceived. And with that, I'm saying, I will do whatever it takes to make this work. There are very few exceptions, we'll talk about it soon, on the practical level of what a person should allow to get in the way of marriage. But marriage is a serious commitment. It really means I will do everything it takes to make this work. Now, you and I could argue, but it takes two. So let me share with you. We're going to go now into dating, and you'll see why it leads into marriage. But so far, I think the message is very clear. Marriage is a commitment, just like Sinai, that there's no turning back. What does that mean? From 1 second before Ma'amad HaSinai, 1 second before Matan Torah, the giving of the Torah, every single Jew was not born a Jew, and that's final. You had to choose that lifestyle. Yishmael, his mother was a phenomenal tzedeket. She was a very, very great gioret. And his father was Avram Avinu. His mother Hagar was the top student of Sarah Imenu. And yet Yishmael is not counted as Jewish. Why not? Because you have to choose to be Jewish. It's not enough to have Jewish parents. Esav is the twin brother of Yaakov Avinu, and he's not Jewish. What do you mean? His father was Yitzhak, his mother was Rivka. How can he not be Jewish? Because until Har Sinai, you had to make a personal commitment to your loyalty to God's values. But after Har Sinai, there's no turning back. It's final. It's a one-way street. I'm Jewish forever. My soul, from a Jewish mother, finalizes my identity. It makes no difference how many mistakes a Jew makes, or Has v'shalom converts to another religion, doesn't change the facts on the ground. His neshama is Jewish, period. So that's the parallel. Now let's look at dating and move into marriage and try to understand what's the process over here. So ladies and gentlemen, I'm actually going to ask for your help. I was in a hotel a number of years ago with Inve HaGefen. They have weekends for singles. There were 96 singles, 48 men, 48 ladies. And Friday night, I had to speak about the subject, the list. You've heard of the list? What should be on your list of what you're looking for in a husband, in a wife? So the men were actually on this side of the room. The ladies were on this side of the room. It was in a hotel, it wasn't a shul. And I asked them what should be on your list. So they came up with all the right answers. So help me. What should be on the list of a man and woman looking for a zivug, looking to marry? What should be on their list? Good midot, good character. What else? Good communicator. Loyalty. Be friendly. Love Hashem. What else are you looking for? A little louder, sorry? Compassion. Sympathy. Modesty. A giving type of personality, generous-hearted, do you agree? Listening. Empathic. Yes? You agree with that one? Motherly, fatherly, good with children. Takes care of their health. Do you want to add that to the list? Considerate, sensitive. A little louder, sorry? Patient. Yeah, we'll give 10 out of 10 for that one. Has a job. Financially responsible. Excellent. Is there anything else you want to add to the list? Care for each other. Is looking out for the good of her spouse. So we came up with much of what you said. Maybe there were a couple of others. And I said, you know what, is there anything else you want on the list? Okay, now I'm going to play with your imagination. I'm not manipulating your mind, I'm going to ask you to play along with this. Watch what we're going to do. You go on a date. You know exactly what you're looking for. You've got all these items. You've got a full list, a full criteria. And you've got the latest app, which on your smartphone, underneath the coffee table, as you meet this young lady, this young man, there has your tailored list. All the items you just gave. Sympathy, empathy, sensitivity, generous, kind, listening, compassionate, good midot, modest, has a good job, is financially responsible. Whatever you're looking for is on that list. And you've got, on this app, you have a rating. So you give a rating to the young man you're meeting or the young lady you're meeting, and the rating from 0 to 10. Do you follow? 0 is the least, 10 is the most. And to your simcha, your satisfaction, you're very, very happy. So far, everything you're looking for, he has, and the score you're giving him, the score you're giving her is 10 out of 10. Is this a good date so far? Do you agree? Okay, so you can't believe your luck. I mean, it's like the muzzle's beyond. So you go on a few more dates just to check, and sure enough, every scenario you look at this young man, this young lady, they fit the criteria you're looking for, and they're scoring 10 out of 10 on everything. No matter what you want to add, they still score 10 out of 10. Question. This is the question I threw to this audience. 48 men on one side, 48 ladies on the other. Would you say Mazal Tov, yes or no? Good. Okay, we got a few yeses. Anyone who said no, what might be missing? Okay, so if let's say Yirat Shamayim was not on my list, now I put it on my list, I go out on another, however many dates it takes, and you're scoring 10 out of 10 for Yirat Shamayim. Oh, so let's say you add communication now to your list, and you go on a few more dates, and you notice he or she is really very good with communication. They're very clear, very good listeners. They communicate with a gentle voice, not with anger, with patience. And you give them a 10 out of 10. Would you say Mazal Tov, yes or no? Yes. Okay, for those who say no, what's missing? Connection. So let's say now you put the word connection. You define whatever it means for you. Okay, and you want attraction as well. Again, all I'm bringing out the following. No, whatever you haven't said, add it to your list, go out again, and sure enough, they're scoring not 1 or 2 or 3 out of 10, not 6 out of 10, not 8. It's a 10 out of 10 without any question in your mind. So one gentleman said, I still wouldn't go out. And said, why not? Said, well, because you got to click. Said, okay, so fix your click, and you go out and you click. 10 out of 10. Would you say Mazal Tov, yes or no? Yes. Okay, good, Baruch Hashem. So now, listen very carefully. You're scoring 10 out of 10 for this person. Any one of you who are in any doubt whatsoever, listen to the following. You're just so shocked that he and she are scoring 10 out of 10 on everything you're looking for. You decide to do much more diligence, and you research. You check out with their parents, their grandparents. You check out with their nursery school teacher and the assistant and the therapist who've done regression therapy going back 5 generations, full Gilgulim, and everything's 10 out of 10. Nobody is giving you the slightest indication that you should doubt your score. Do you understand what I'm saying? So she scored 10 out of 10 on what you're looking for. He scored 10 out of 10 for what you're looking for. And Mazal Tov, you get married. Question. Does scoring 10 out of 10 for everything you've ever looked for equal a happy marriage? Yes or no? No. Interesting. Why not? Why not? Bring it out. Why not? She scored 10 out of 10 on everything. Motherly, giving, listening, empathizing. And he scored 10 out of 10. Why not? Why won't it equal a happy marriage? Why not?
You don't need each other. Obstacles. You don't need each other.
So this gentleman says you don't need each other. But let's say you do need each other, and you're very good at communicating, you're very respectful, and whatever he needs or she needs, they look out for each other. And you brought out, sir, that there are obstacles that will come up. Explain. What does that mean? You see, just because you each, you guys want to say? Differences are going to come up that you have never experienced before in a marriage. Example. I'm going to give you an example from the real world. Actually happened. I'm not going to give you too many details. You'll never know who I'm referring to. Young lady is abused by her father from childhood. I'm talking about serious abuse. She's now 23 years old. She hasn't seen her father in 10 years. And a young man is attracted to her for the following reasons. She owns her own company with several employees. She's doing very well. She's extremely vivacious, very outgoing, a happy-go-lucky type personality. And as he gets to know her, he's in shock that this young lady, who is so positive and happy, has not spoken with her father for the last 10 years because he's dangerous. He physically abused her. I'm not going into details. You can read between the lines. And the item that attracted him the most in all her virtues was the fact that here's someone who probably had good reason to be bitter or angry or upset with God or an unhappy person, and yet she's bouncing off the walls with joy. She just loves life. Besides being successful in her own little business and having several employees, that was the main attraction. If this is someone who's gone through hell on earth and bounced back and doesn't live with bitterness and anger and resentment, that's a very good starting point for marriage, where there's always going to be ups and downs. They get married. In less than a year of the marriage, her father dies, and she falls into depression. He's blown away. This is not the lady he married. And he's trying to ask her, what is the matter? You haven't even seen he didn't even come to the wedding. Why are you depressed? And here was her answer. I never realized that deep down, I was really hoping that one day he would apologize to me for all the damage and harm. And I never realized that till he died. I realized he will never be able to say sorry to me. And I didn't realize that was missing until he died. And I'm broken now. Could he have known that? No. She didn't know it. You see, the point you bring up, which is perfectly valid, is that things will happen that you and I, your spouse and you, could never have anticipated how you will respond until it happens. True story. Number 2, young man, young lady, they get engaged. The biggest virtue he was attracted to her for was that on one of the dates, it was a Shabbat, and they were at a family that in the yeshiva that he belonged to, in that community, this was a family he was very close to. They had many children. He brings the young lady that he's considering marrying, and the children are all over her. And she's a magnet. She's so good with young children, that clinches it for him. Because he felt that if I'm going to have a wife who's going to be a devoted mother and loves children so much, she's the mother for my children. They got engaged. 10 months later, first child is born. She falls into depression. Why? Because she was finding it very hard to feed this child, nurse the child. The child was rejecting her. She felt rejected, and she falls into a depression. She doesn't want to have children for a few more years. Could he have known that? Could she have known that? You see, scoring 10 out of 10 is very good. But guess what? What matters is not what you score or what your spouse scores before you get married. What matters is not who you marry. What matters is who are you entering the marriage. How will you respond to differences that will come up that you can't possibly have anticipated? She didn't know that she was going to fall into depression and reject her own child who she felt was rejecting her. And that's not uncommon. It does happen. It doesn't mean it's going to continue that way. But what matters is not who you marry nearly as much as who are you entering the marriage. True story. This one has been published, but not in the full detail that I'm about to share with you, which I heard from Rabbi Yaakov Greenwald, who I believe heard it from the Chazon Ish. The story of how the Chavetz Chaim first married. And why it's not published to the full detail, I'm just guessing because they're worried that it's not going to make it look good. But here's the way I heard the story. Rabbi Yisrael Meir Kagan is 16 years old. He comes home one day from yeshiva. He was sleeping away, but came home for Ben Hazmanim in between term time. His mother had remarried. She lost her husband, and she was an almanah, a widow. In those days, you're talking about the 1800s. A widow, to support herself was close to impossible without agreeing to marry almost anybody. And so she remarried someone of much, so to speak, lower status, station in life, of a more, shall we say, crude personality. And with him, he brought his daughter from his previous marriage. He was an alman, he had lost his wife. As soon as he set eyes on the young Yisrael Meir, he wanted this boy for his daughter. And the Chavetz Chaim's mother was distraught. She was completely upset about this. And when Yisrael Meir came home, she started crying. And he said to her, "Mother, what's the matter with you?" And she refused to say. After a while, she couldn't control it anymore, and she was burst out uncontrollable tears. And he said, "Mother, why are you crying?" And then she admitted the truth, that her new husband has been putting pressure and pressure and pressure, that the young Yisrael Meir, who's a child prodigy, is a tzaddik in his own right already, and a Talmid Hacham, someone who will easily marry someone of status that will help with a dowry and help support. He's someone that is grooming for leadership, and she didn't want to hear of this. It was a terrible suggestion. And she knew it was the midot, and I don't want to go into detail, it was not for her son. So she told him the truth, that her new husband is putting all this pressure on her. What was Rabbi Yisrael Meir's response? The young Chavetz Chaim. "Mother, why are you crying? I'll marry her." And he did. And he still became the Chavetz Chaim. That's how it was told to me. You see, the point is really the following. Who you marry is not nearly as important as who are you entering in the marriage. Because if I try to change my husband, if I try to change my wife, yeah, very funny. Do you know anybody who successfully changed their husband or their wife by trying to change them? I'll make the question much easier. Do you know anybody in world history who succeeded in changing their husband or their wife by trying to change them? And the answer is, it never happened. Nobody changes anybody. The only way to truly change someone is not by force, cajoling, naga therapy as I call it. No, it doesn't work. The only way that works is when we change ourselves. They respond to a different us. When we become more respectful, listening, empathic, patient, giving, generous, understanding. When we become more forgiving, that's a biggie. When we demonstrate our loyalty through thick and thin, or for some of us through thick and thick, that's when they change in response to a different us. So therefore, even if someone does score 10 out of 10, it doesn't equal a perfect marriage, because there's no such thing. The only thing that you and I control is how we deal with the differences. And this brings us to marriage itself. Shalom bayit. What an interesting expression. Shalom, you know, translates correctly as peace. But what is the word shalom? Lashon HaKodesh is perfect. That means when you put the word under the microscope, turn up the magnitude of the letters and you put the letters together, they will reveal to you the mechanics of shalom, of real peace. See, what's the three-letter root of shalom? Shalem. What does shalem mean? Whole, complete. What if it was complete now it's whole, what was it before it was complete? Incomplete. Oh, so shalem really means different parts complementing each other till it becomes completed. Do you follow? That's Ikar Shalom. This is brought in many Sfarim. Likutei Moharan from Rav Nachman of Breslov in Torah Pei, I think he brings it. The Ikar Shalom is when you're mitchaber shnei hafechim. You fuse together, you combine together two opposites. He brings from the Torah, which when it first talks about two opposites coming together, Rashi brings this right at the beginning of the Torah. Shamayim, Ose Shalom, Bimeromav. Hashem, you make peace up there, above. Simple meaning is you bring two opposites together and create peace between Aish, fire from the ball of fire called the local sun, and Mayim, water on the oceans, and you bring them together through gravity and wind, and you bring the evaporated water in the form of rain clouds, and now Sham Mayim. Shamayim is made up of three combination of words. The word Esh has the letter Aleph at the beginning, and there the Aleph is a silent letter. Shamayim, says the Gemara in Chagiga Daf Yud Bet, that Shamayim is made up of two words. Shamayim is Esh and Mayim. You got fire and water. Fire and water. How do you get fire and water to coexist? Oh, says HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that's making shalom. Shalom is when you put two opposites together and you create a whole new entity. Shamayim, how do you get it up there? Sham, Mayim, is made up of another two words. Over there is water. How did it get there? Samayim, it lifted up from the word elevate. Sa means elevate. So this one word, Shamayim, is made up of three combinations of Eish and Mayim, and Sham Mayim, and Sa Mayim. Ose Shalom, he makes peace between them. The real peace is when we're the same and similar, and that's real peace. Or is real peace when people are not the same, not the similar, very different, and still get along because they're respectful, listening, understanding, compassionate, sensitive. Everything that you said is what I have to strive to bring to the marriage, and no matter how many times I fall, and I will make lots of mistakes, I will, Aleph, in front of, commit to making this marriage work. Oh, so marriage is not about how similar we become and less different. And I'll prove it to you. I was speaking about, it must be about 7-8 years ago, in Kutchers. You've heard of Kutchers? Yeah. Allah Shalom. So, in Kutchers, in the Catskills, yeah, no, it's no longer there. Gateways had seminars for Pesach. And in Chol HaMoed, Rabbi Becher, Rabbi Tatz, myself, we would rotate going to the Kutchers from Stamford, Connecticut, because they were holding two programs. So in Chol HaMoed Pesach, we went to Kutchers, and there were about 400 people in the audience. I think the average age was about 107. I don't know whether, but there was one lady there, by the way, who was very astute. She was 104 years old, really all there. Someone asked, what's special about your age? She said, no peer pressure. So I would say the average age was probably closer to 75, 80. But you know what was interesting? I said, you know what, there's 400 people in this room. And let's say the average age is 50. The ladies are quite happy with that. So any accountants here can, or if you've got your smartphone, if you could quickly do the math. What is 400 times 50? If you want to take a vote. You want to take a vote? You can take a vote. 20,000. Ladies and gentlemen, here was my question that I asked an audience of 400 people. I said to them, do you realize in this room there are 20,000 years of accumulative life experience That's amazing. Actually, it was much more, but I was pretending it's 50 as the average age. You're 50, you're 50, you're 50. Times 400 is 20,000. So my question to them, and there were people in that room who've been married 60 plus years. There were people in that room who've been through the First World War, Second World War. They've been around. There's nothing that you're going to shock them with. They've seen everything. Pain and suffering, everything you can imagine. And when I asked them, what will make two people happy in marriage? And their 20,000 years of accumulative life experience, I gave them two options. Will it be that over many years of marriage, we become more and more similar, like each other, and less different? And that's what's going to make us happy in our marriage. Or is it option number two? Not how similar we become, and less different over the years, but rather how we deal with the differences, how we respond to the differences when there is a difference. Will it be with love, appreciation, admiration, understanding, gratitude, love, respect, empathy, sensitivity, everything that you said plus? How many people in that room said, happiness in marriage is number one? How similar my husband becomes like me, how less different I am to him, and that's what's going to make us happy. How many people? Zero. Isn't that extraordinary? 20,000 years. I mean, that's 4 times more, nearly five times more than human history. There's nobody on planet Earth who's going to say, after looking back on their lives, that what matters the most is how similar we are and less different. Because that's not where it's at. Because shalom doesn't mean same. It means shalem. It means differences coexisting. Eish and Mayim can be opposites and still be b'shalom. So now, here's the question. We're living in a time in history where there's probably never been more information about dating and marriage than any other time in world history. Books, tapes, CDs, seminars, professionals. Am I exaggerating? There's never been a time in world history where there's so much information on the dynamics of male, female. Am I exaggerating? Was that absolutely accurate? Wouldn't you think that logic would dictate that since we have so much information, so many seminars, so much in print, so much to listen to on the subject of dating and marriage, we must be experiencing the best marriages in world history? And I think that would be a fairly logical expectation, but does that bear true in reality? No. We've probably never in world history had so much pain associated with marriage. How is that possible? How did that happen? So there's lots of reasons, and a lot of them are really seriously valid. One of them is commitment. Shavuot, marriage, is not an option of, I'll make it work if it's not too hard. I'll make it work as long as he doesn't press my buttons too much, or she doesn't press my buttons too much. Because now, where's the focus? On what I'm bringing to the relationship, or your performance? And what we're saying is, even if they score 10 out of 10 on everything that we're looking for in the ideal imagination, it still is not reality, because the reality is always not you, but who am I in the relationship? So comes along HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and he gives us the clue that this is the truth right at the beginning of creation of man. Because that's where you're going to get all the clues to the whole profile of man and woman. Marriage. Because that's where he describes the creation of man and woman. And right there, you're going to see the words scream out what we've just concluded. That marriage, for it to be happy, is more about who I am entering the marriage, not who's the other person. So someone of the caliber of the Chavetz Chaim is capable of saying, I'm not worried about marrying someone who's not like me or of the same, because guess what? If I treat her with a lot of love and admiration and appreciation and giving and respect, guess what's going to happen? What will happen? Will that person start schmuttering and take advantage? Or will they feel, oh my gosh, you genuinely appreciate me? Even when I make mistakes, you're forgiving and listening and give another chance and be done l'chavzchut, and you're always looking for a favorable interpretation for my mistakes. What's going to happen? Kamayim apanim lepanim, just like waters reflect your facial expressions without any deviation. Kein leva adam la'adam, so is the mind and heart of one person to another. If you really want to change your spouse, says Shlomo HaMelech, Kein leva adam la'adam. If I really want to change you, then guess what? Just like waters reflect my facial expressions, what I'm thinking and feeling is what you're going to think and feel. So if I really want to change you, where should I begin? What am I saying to myself up here that affects what I feel about you? That's where I need to begin, because that's the only starting place. And as long as I blame my wife, my husband, I gave you the best years of my life, and I start giving you a list of all that you messed up, it's all your fault, you're just like your father. Sorry, I didn't mean to wake you up, I'm sorry, I beg your pardon. So when I accuse and blame, when I complain and deny, when I give excuses, A, accuse, B, blame, C, complain, D, deny, E, give excuses. It's the A, B, C, D, E of getting out of responsibility for changing the only person I was created to change. And God says it right at the beginning of the Torah. Lo tov heyot adam levado. It's not good for man to be alone. E'aseh lo ezer kenegdo. I will therefore make for him an ezer, a partner, someone who's going to assist in their growth, kenegdo, against him, opposite him. Comes along the Torah, look carefully. It does not say, lo tov lihyot adam levado. What's heyot mean versus lihyot? Lihyot means to be alone. Heyot, you can translate as lonely, but actually heyot is a verbal noun. That means to say, it's what you're being right now. The difference between lihyot levado, to be alone, that's referring to when I don't have company. I don't have people to share my life with, my dreams, my disappointments, to empathize with me, to be joyous and celebrate with me when things go right, and cry when I'm in pain. That's lihyot levado. But God doesn't say that. He says, lo tov heyot. Heyot means I'm alone without myself. I don't know me. And the only way I can really know me is if God helps me by giving me a spouse, a husband, a wife that's going to be like a mirror, so I get to see me close up, with all the kinks in my armor and the slight deviations in my personality are going to show up in the mirror. It's not good for a person to be alone where he doesn't know himself. That's terrible. Not to know myself. I can't be alone with myself. I've got to be connected to my text and my iPhone and my smartphone and the screen and on the phone. And on Shabbat, if it wasn't for prayers and the rituals of Kiddush and the meal and socializing, maybe what would happen if I was really alone for a few minutes? Would I get fidgety, or would I enjoy my company, enjoy myself? And in that enjoyment, sense gratitude for who we are as Jews. Lo tov heyot adam levado means God says, I have put you in this world to become a tzaddik, a tzaddiket. And I decided I'm going to make it easy for you. I'm going to give you a coach who's going to help you along the way, and her name is husband and wife. And if we're really blessed to get a few more coaches to help us become tzaddikim, he sends us children. You thought marriage was hard. Oh my gosh. Anyone here who has teenagers will understand why some animals eat their young. Pure humor, no reflection on reality whatsoever. Please, I really love kids, don't get me wrong. I just finished making my entire house childproof, but they're still getting in. No, don't get me wrong, I really do like kids. Someone once asked me if I ever hit my kids. I've never, ever hit my kids, except in self-defense. So, if you thought marriage was not easy, try raising children. Comes along the Kadosh Baruch Hu and says, I'm going to make your life a bit easier. That I'm putting you in a world where you're going to go for a gold medal in the righteous Olympics. Because the moment your neshama was about to enter your body, it refused. Point blank. I'm not entering. And God says, why not? And then the neshama says, because if the body I enter does averot, I might come back to you when I die. When the body dies, I'll come back to you worse than when I came. Because I'm entering pure, but I'm going to come out with all sorts of stains on don't send me in. The chances of me coming out pure are less likely. And God says, you have to go in. And he makes me make a shavua, a promise, an oath. Tiyeh tzaddik va'al tiyeh rasha. Be righteous. Don't be not righteous. And so Kadosh Baruch Hu says, but I'm going to help you along the way. Marriage, children, not always an easy boss, not an always easy neighbor, not always easy grandchildren, not always easy father or mother-in-law. Sorry, just swallowing, sorry. Father-in-law, chevruta, friend, co-worker, client. Have we covered everybody? HaKadosh Baruch Hu is in the business not of hurting us, but helping us become the best we can become. And when I blow it, losing my patience, I blow it not being as loyal as I should be, I blow it with anger, I blow it with not listening and being empathic, what does God do? He says, you know what, don't worry, I'll give you another chance. So he sends into the room, a few seconds later, the same person who just pressed all my buttons to give me another chance to flex my righteous muscles and become Tiyeh Tzaddik. We're in this world to improve ourselves, and marriage is an accelerator, and it's not about who I marry nearly as much as who are we entering the marriage. I'm going to close on a few practicals, much of which I took actually from the 10 Commandments of Marriage from Rabbi Victor Miller of blessed memory. And he tells us, and this is really important to know. Number one, stay focused on what matters the most. Rabbi, famous story he quotes from the Gemara in Yibamot Samach Gimel, where Rabbi, the great Rabbi was considered greater even than Rabbeinu HaKadosh. Rabbeinu HaKadosh admitted that the deeds of Rabbi was greater than his. Rabbeinu HaKadosh wrote the Mishnah. He saved the Torah Sheba'al Peh. And yet he would say that of Rabbi. Rabbi was a phenomenal personality. He's once walking through the marketplace with his nephew, the famous Rav. Rav was his nephew. They're mentioned in the Gemara all the time. Rabbi had a wife who was very abusive. In public, she would disdain, put him down, embarrass him frequently. And it was to the chagrin and humiliation of his own students and his children. And yet, while he's walking through the marketplace, Rabbi is busy finding something that he knows his wife would enjoy. He buys it, wraps it up in his scarf, takes it home. And Rav, his nephew and student, says, Rabbeinu, Everyone knows that my aunt, your wife, is really, really tough. Why are you looking out for something? Why are you buying her something? Do you know what his answer was? His answer, by the way, was generic. He didn't give an answer for how he deals with marriage. He gave an answer that's generic to everybody. He said, there are two reasons, two virtues my wife has that for those two alone, I owe her my love and respect. And therefore, everything else is drowned out by these two virtues. They're so big. What are they? Dayenu, it's enough shigadlenu et banenu, that she goes through childbirth, pregnancy, childbirth, hours, not always easy labor, and sagidul banim, and raising that child. She's the one who's the most affected by bringing children to the world, most connected to the child, that is emotionally connected to the ups and downs of that child. Dayenu, it's enough for us to love our wives alone just because they go through what they go through in bringing our children into the world. Umatzilenu minachet, and they save us from looking at other women that I might otherwise do, because my wife provides what the famous expression, pat bisalo, bread in the basket. Chazal tell us many times, our sages remind us, that someone who's hungry because he's fasting and has no food in the refrigerator to break his fast is suffering much more than someone that is fasting, but there's food in the refrigerator for when he breaks the fast. It's an expression that a husband and wife, that even though they've got differences, but in the bedroom, they're loyal to each other. They don't use the bedroom as leverage against each other. That's it! Get out of my bedroom! No such thing. Comes along Rabbi and says, for these two items alone, raise our children. And number two, provide that a husband and wife are in the area of intimacy. They are giving to each other and not holding back. And therefore, God forbid, the husband doesn't get starved and has to look chas v'shalom elsewhere. He would be wrong for doing that. But, says Rabbi, those two items alone drown out completely anything else she might do wrong. And therefore, it's not he's in denial of when she's not that nice, even in public, is so focused on the good that matters the most. So number one, says Rabbi Victor Miller, never use the bedroom as leverage against one spouse. Never say, that's it, I'm not going to the mikveh this month. Never say, I'm so angry with you, I'm not sleeping in the same room. Says Rabbi Victor Miller, no matter what the differences are, stay in the bedroom. Because if chas v'shalom, husband and wife separate from that room, it chas v'shalom could be the beginning of a bigger separation. Don't go there. And if one has done it, apologize and don't do it again. Says Rabbi Victor Miller, I'm just going to say it once, keep parents-in-law out of your marriage. Don't share with them information about differences between you. It's very hard for a father or mother to stay impartial, neutral, without taking a position. And it's usually only a matter of time. It might be months, it might be years, and then they take a side, and they can take a side way, way too far. Don't invite other people, including parents and parents-in-law, into what's going on in your marriage. Marriage, whatever differences are, belong between husband and wife. If they can't settle it between them, so go to your local rabbi. Go to someone who's got a reputation as a professional. But don't share with neighbors. Don't share with friends unless these are friends who you know are going to be there to support both of you, but not take sides. It's very hard not to take sides. Comes along Rabbi Victor Miller. He says, no matter what the differences are, don't let the routine of marriage stop. What does that mean? Don't let differences mean, right, that's it, I'm not going to work today. No, the routine of marriage, you go to work, support a family. That's it, no more bedroom. That's it, I'm not making meals. No, the routine of marriage continues. Says Rabbi Victor Miller, where do we learn this from? We are supposed to emulate HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Hashem. Now, does Hashem ever have reason to be slightly upset with us? Rietti! I can't believe it! How many times you read yourself, don't speak Lashon Hara, and there it is, right out of your mouth. You know what? That's it. I can't take it anymore. No gravity for you for a week. Whoa. Now, why does God wake me up the next morning? Why does he keep giving us another chance? Why doesn't he just zap us straight away? No sunshine, no gravity, no rainfall. No, it's good. Hashem says, look, I've got a contract. It's called a marriage. And in my marriage contract, gravity, rainfall, sunshine are givens. That's the routine of life. So even when you mess up, I'm going to keep my part of the contract. Now, second paragraph of Kriyat Shema, you'll see that there is such a thing as if Has v'Shalom, collectively the Jewish people don't keep Hashem's Torah mitzvot, that it could affect the rain. But I'm just bringing out a very simple point here. The routine of marriage must continue. Comes along Rabbi Victor Miller and he offers, if I make a mistake, I apologize. When, not if, when I make a mistake, what should I do? ASAP, as soon as possible. Apologize, appease the other person. And what should that other person do when we apologize or bring a gift or try to appease them? What should they do? Forgive, accept the appeasement. Says Rabbi Victor Miller, where do we learn that from? From HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Where do we learn that? So he quotes the Gemara in Yuma, Daf Samach Tes, which tells us, Hamefate b'yeno shel chavero, someone who is appeased by the wine of his friend. They got into a tiff. They had a sichsuch, a conflict between them. And one of them felt bad and brought a bottle of wine to appease his friend. What should you do? Take the wine, pour 2 drinks, make l'chaim, and be b'shalom. Says the Gemara, Hamefate b'yeno shel chavero, someone who allows himself to be appeased by the wine of his friend, yeshlo mida'at kono. He has the mindset of his creator. Shene'emar, as we learn from Noah. Noah came out of the teva, he came out of the ark. He sees total destruction. And he falls on his knees onto the ground in uncontrollable tears and says to the Ribono Shel Olam, Master of the universe, why didn't you have rachamim on your creation? There was total silence. No tweets of any birds. There were no noise of any animals, no children playing. Complete, utter silence of destruction. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu says back to Noah, Ro'eh shoteh, you foolish shepherd. When I first told you I'm going to destroy the world, you were a tzaddik. You did what you were told, built an ark. You weren't a chassid. You didn't go beyond being a tzaddik. You didn't beg me to save the world. Why now, after I destroyed it, now you're saying, why didn't I have rachamim? So the insinuation, the hint was, who was responsible for the destruction? That had he prayed, then Hashem would have saved the world. Do you understand the insinuation? Noah, by the way, had a very good self-esteem. And he responded, Ribono Shel Olam, I thought about that, but it appeared to me that the generation was so wicked, they would not have deserved your rachamim. So I didn't pray for them. You know what Hashem's answer was? You're right. They were so wicked that your tefillot would have not helped to save the world. But there's no such thing as wasted tefillah. I would have held your prayers in escrow for a future generation. And you, as the tzaddik of that generation, should have prayed for them. Now, what does Noach do? What's the next thing he does? Perek Het. What does he do? Before he got drunk, that's in Perek Tet. What did he do in Perek Het? He makes a mizbeach and he brings korbanot to appease Hashem. What does Hashem say? Hashem smelled the reach nichoach, the sweet-smelling fragrance of the offering, and Hashem makes a promise on the spot. What's the promise? I will never destroy the world again. Says the Gemara, What is Hashem teaching us? Because Hashem has no nose. Hashem doesn't smell. Hashem doesn't need other people's offerings. Says Rambam, whenever the Torah describes God in human terms, it's always describing how we're supposed to get along with each other. Because God doesn't have any description of an outstretched arm. God doesn't see with eyes. He sees without eyes. Hashem doesn't need ears to listen. He hears everything without ears. He knows what's going on in our minds without any other technology. Hashem describes himself in human terms so we can learn how to be with each other. Hashem smells the sweet-smelling fragrance of this barbecue steak, and he says, I'm never going to bring a mabul again, destruction to the world through a flood. Says Rabbi Avigdor Miller, next time a husband and wife have a slight difference between them and a few sharp words go between them. And then the wife, what does she do? Makes his favorite steak. And he comes into the kitchen. This smells good. What's that? So it's your favorite steak. Oh, okay. And he starts eating it. What should his reaction be? Don't try and bribe me. I know this is just... I'm not an idiot. Says HaKadosh Baruch Hu, if someone makes a gesture of shalom, to come together with the differences, don't reject it. Accept the appeasement. So what he should do is eat the steak. This is so delicious. You know what? I really apologize for those sharp words I said before. I'm still right and you're wrong, but I really apologize for... You see, it's not about right or wrong. He can still believe what he wants to believe, but he's got to apologize and mean it and want to get back to shalom. And if she's the first one, because she's smarter, for making the gesture and providing his favorite food, he should immediately take advantage of that appeasement and be appeased. Because God says, if you accept the gesture of someone else to make shalom, you've got my mindset. Because that's what I promised Noah. I didn't need his steak. It means nothing to me to smell. But I'm teaching mankind, whenever there's a difference, look for the first opportunity to be appeased, and the other person should grab it. Make peace as soon as possible. Shana Rishona, first year of marriage, says Rabbi Volba of blessed memory, lasts 15 years. The first year of marriage lasts 15 years. It takes a long time to iron out the differences. And even then, it's not the differences. It's how well we respond. How listening, giving, respectful, apologetic, kind, less sharp, less accusative, less blaming, less complaining, less denying, less excusing, until eventually we don't use the A, B, C, D, E, accusing, blaming, complaining, denying, excusing, to get out of responsibility for changing. The only person, you and I, were created to change our very selves. There's more to be said on this important subject. I will share with you. You may have heard this one before, I'm not sure. The Mossad was looking for a new assassin who's going to be going to dangerous places and getting rid of our one or two enemies. And 1,000 candidates are screened. Amongst them are some ladies as well. And finally, it comes down to 3 people, 2 men and 1 lady. First man walks in, and the Mossad secret police give him a gun. And they say, in that room over there, sitting on a chair is your wife. Go inside, shoot and kill her. He looks at them and says, are you out of your mind? I'm married 20 years ago. Go kill my wife? He said, no, get out of here. You obviously don't have what it takes. They call in the second candidate to be the top assassin for the Mossad, and they give him a gun, and they tell him, in that room is your wife sitting on a chair. take this gun, go inside, shouldn't kill her. He takes the gun, he walks about 3 steps, and he turns with it. She's the wife, my mother, my children. I can't do this. I said, you don't have the metal. Get out of here. So they call in the lady, and they give her a gun. They say, sitting in that room on a chair is your husband. Go inside and shoot and kill him. She takes the gun, walks inside the room, closes the door. Bang! Ah, smash, crash, bang! Ah, smash, crash! She comes out of the room screaming, this silly gun was filled with blanks. I had to beat him to death with a chair. Now, what's that got to do with marriage? Don't ever let it get that bad. Marriage is Hashem's design for us to grow with our differences. It's not about changing anybody. It's about being more loving, appreciative, giving, even when, not if, even when you don't like their parenting, the way they run the finances, choice of clothes, hairstyle, or whatever it is. It makes no difference. It's not the differences that force people apart. It's not being able to handle the differences that force people apart. In the zechut, in the merit of knowing that shalom is coexistence of the differences. It's not being the same. And in the merit of knowing there's no such thing as 10 out of 10 all the time. The person I have to be focused on is not my husband, wife, changing, or my teenager, or my kids. The person I need to be completely focused on is, who am I in this marriage? Who am I in the dating process? Because that's the person who's bringing value to the relationship that eventually the other person will say, oh my gosh, this husband, this wife is so good to me and so loving and giving, even when they make a mistake and they apologize, or I appease, he accepts. And we learn to get along with the differences. In that zechut, maybe the ones who fulfill the Zohar, which says that one shul of shalom is enough to bring the Mashiach. It's a sad statement. It's a sad statement. It would only take just one shul of 10 people to be b'shalom to bring Mashiach. Who knows? Maybe it's this shul, but in the zechut of knowing that we're making shalom in our own homes, with our children, with our spouses, we should be zocher to all Hashem's blessings, who says, I want to bless you with everything I've got. But kli machzik bracha is shalom. God bless you all.